Hi, this is Ivan. So this video will talk about REST API and the general testing using Postman. So a REST API is an application program API that uses HTTP requests to get put, post, and delete data. It is an architecture style that defines constraints to be used for creating web services, and it actually conforms to the to provide interoperability between computer systems on the internet. The REST compliant services allow requesting systems to access and manipulate the textual representation of web resources by using a uniform and predefined set of stateless operations. Other kinds of services, such as the SOAP web services, expose their own arbitrary sets of operations. By using a stateless protocol and standard operation, REST systems aim for fast performance, reliability, and the ability to grow by reusing components that can be managed and updated without affecting the system as a whole, even while it is running. So, for example, if we go to a web and then we input this URL, this HTTP, this part as a URL, and then this part as an API, and the message will come out as this. So this is a very simple Hello World REST API. So there are several methods that used by the REST API. So in the previous method, we used the get method. So the other method listed in here are the common method. One of the other common method is a post. The other methods are the put, patch, and delete. Okay. The HTTP 1.0 specification define the get, post, and head methods, and the HTTP 1.1 specification added the 5 new methods: options, put, delete, trace, and connect. By being specific in these documents, their semantics are well known and can be depended on. Any client that uses any method and the server can be configured to support any combination of methods. If a method is unknown to an intermediate, it will be treated as an unsafe and non-idempotent method. There is no limit to the number of methods that can be defined, and this allows for future methods to be specified without breaking the existing infrastructure. Okay, so likewise, get is the most common and widely used methods in the API and website. The get is to retrieve data from a server at a specific resource. For example, in the previous slide where you see that we use the greetings, you actually retrieve a message back like welcome to RESTful API mock test data. So this is a simple way of using a get. Okay, for posts are actually requests are actually used to send data to the API server to create or update a resource. So the data sent to the server is stored in the request body of the HTTP request. So the simplest example is a contract form on a website. When you fill out the inputs in the form and hit send, the data is put in the response body of the request and sent to the server. This may be a JSON, XML, or other query methods, although the JSON methods are currently the most common methods at the moment. So there are actually for the HTTP, there is actually a status code that comes back. For example, in the 100, you actually have 5 of them. There are 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. So in the 100 is actually the informational. So this status code actually indicates the provisional response consists only of the status line and optional headers and is terminated by an empty line. So there's no required headers for this class of status code. And for the 200, the class of status code indicates that the client request was successfully received, understood, and accepted. So in many tests, you actually will be testing the status code in a different variants of 200 or 200x, yeah, to see whether it actually returns back successfully. And for the 300s is a redirection. It's a class of status code indicates that the further actions needs to be taken by the user agent in order to fulfill the request. The action required may be carried out by the user agent without interaction with the user if and only if the method used in the second request is get or hit. A client should detect infinite redirection loops since such loops generate network traffic for each redirection. So the 400 is the client error. The 400 class of status code is intended for classes in which the client seems to have error. Except when responding to a hit request, the server should include an entity containing an explanation of the error situation and whether it is a temporary or permanent condition. These status codes are applicable to any request method. User agent should display any included entity to the user. And we have the 500, the server error, the last one. It is a response code beginning with the digit 5, indicate cases in which the server is aware that it has error or is incapable of performing the request. It's except when responding to a hit request, the server should include an entity containing an explanation of the error situation and whether it is a temporary or permanent condition. User agent should display any included entity to the user. These display codes are applicable to any request methods. I've created a weather REST API for the purpose of this video and testing. So this API actually contains 4 components, simple. One is greetings, that's something like the hello world. The other one is the get country names, get the list of country names. The third one is that to get the attributes when we have the country names, right? For example, London. The fourth one is to get the weather itself. So from the number 1 to 3, it is the get, and the last one, it is the post. So let's see, for example, in these greetings. Alright, so you see here that this is first the host, right? The method is a get method, and the version of the API is version 1, and the parameters is greetings. And this is actually the returned, and is in JSON format. So try on your browser. You should actually be able to run on this. Okay. So of course, as we go down, we will actually have the rest of other get methods. For example, we need to get the list of country names, and we have the list of country names that we have in here. Right. So these are list of country names that the REST actually store. Right. And once we have the list of country names, we want to find out the attribute of that particular countries, for example the latitude and longitude, and we actually input it as London. Right, so let me get this thing. Okay, for example, I'll just change this, and maybe I change to Moscow. Let's see. Alright, so this get methods actually for this get the country name Moscow, you will actually return this attribute, and I will want to have these 2 attributes, two lists. And finally, because we have these 2, we can actually form it as a JSON body like this, and then send it as a post, which I will show you later how to do it in the Postman. So this is Postman. You can download it for free. As I mentioned, the Postman can also get the response uh, from the REST API. And in here, for example, the first one, if you remember the greetings, we can actually create it as a get in here, right? And then we can actually have a send. So it will actually return this message, which is exactly the same as you saw it initially in here, right? It's the same. So this is the same for the get list of country names as a get method. So you get the list of country names, right? And the same for the country. If you set it, I set it to as Moscow, and I get the return as this. So you saw it in the browser. It's the same. And but for the post, you actually need to define in the body in here what is the latitude and longitude, and you will actually click send, and it return uh this response. So you have got like the humidity, the wind speed, wind gusts, visibility, yeah, the perceived temperature, the actual temperature, etc. So, and this latitude is actually in London. Latitude and longitude is in London. Okay. So I go through something first. How do you actually create it in Postman? So I create as a request. Let me save it. So it's in the get, right? So you can see all this, and I paste the host, the URL in here, and that's it. So if you need to add on any other parameters in the get, you can actually add on to in here the headers. So the headers, the keys and the values, and then you will add on to the parameters in here. But if you actually want to change it to something like the post, you will actually need to include uh, a JSON format, a JSON body, something like this. Yeah. The JSON body, and then that will actually send out as a body, as a post, right? But of course this doesn't work. Okay, so in Postman we can actually do more than what you saw on the browser. You can actually validate some data. Example in here, I can actually check that the response code is 200, which is success, and I can actually check whether there is a JSON body, the response, whether it's a JSON body, and I can actually check whether the message, the expected message in here, whether that is it equals to this. So if it is, it will pass. Let me give it a try. Okay, it passed. You see the test result. Response should be okay to process, which is the first one, and message greeting, the second one, and response is okay, the first one. So what happens if I change it to something? For example, and one of it should fail, right? So the message greetings has failed, which is this one, because I changed the name, right? So it goes the same for the rest of it, which you can actually add in this test or the test that you want in here. So but you can actually add it in here that when I'm testing for the Moscow, I want to check whether the city is Moscow, the country is Russia, etc., the longitude, latitude, and the population. So you can do different ways of validations in Postman, which same goes for every other methods. And Postman is very useful in this area. Okay, so that's all for this video. Thank you very much.